Welcome to Green TV, the show dedicated to positive, green New Deal solutions and the independent Greens and Green Party candidates that advocate for them. I'm your host, Gail Parker. The independent Greens of Virginia advocate for jobs, eco jobs for the economy, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal energy jobs, rail jobs, conservation jobs, and weatherization jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, more Virginians work in solar jobs than in coal, some 11,000. We have a news item today from AFP Beijing, China. China and Russia are considering building a high-speed rail line from Moscow to Beijing that would cut the journey time from 6 days to under 2 days. Chinese media reported today. China already has 6,200 miles of high-speed rail. The project would cost more than $230 billion and be over 4,350 miles long. The Beijing Times reported today. More than 3 times the world's current longest high-speed rail line, and if funding is found smoothly, as was reported, it could be completed in as soon as 5 years, an amazingly short time. The two countries signed a memorandum of understanding earlier this week during a state visit to Moscow in which Beijing expressed interest in building a fast rail link between Russia's capital and Kazan, which is the oil-rich Turkestan region, state broadcaster China Central Television reported. Direct passenger trains between Beijing and Moscow went into operation in 1954, and there are still 2 services per week, according to CCTV. China has the world's largest high-speed rail network, built from scratch in less than a decade, relying on technology transfer from foreign companies, including France's Alstom, Germany's Siemens, and Japan's Kawasaki Heavy Industries. But China is now keen to promote the export of its technology and has been building high-speed rail networks in Turkey and Venezuela. We are pleased today to have with us Joe Galdo, Green Party candidate for Congress in Virginia's 11th Congressional District. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. Joe, I know that you're an expert in renewable energies. Could you please give us your elevator speech? Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and...
I will. My expertise is not just in renewable energy. I came to Virginia 32 years, well, more than 32 years ago. I've been in Fairfax County for 32 years, but long before that, I came to Virginia to go to graduate school at University of Virginia, where I obtained a PhD in physics. And for my first 12 years in my career, I worked for the Department of Defense and Intelligence, and I spent that time evaluating threats and assessing the vulnerabilities and capabilities of our military systems and those of our potential adversaries. And that background has given me the tools to not only make decisions or ask the right questions in making decisions on R&D investments, but also the acquisition of military systems, as well as how to best meet national security threats around the world. Subsequently, I went out to the private sector and worked for government contractors for a few years, so I do have some private industry experience. I managed a department of about 20-30 people. And then I went back into government with the U.S. Department of Energy and was on the staff of one of the Deputy Assistant Secretaries in Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy in an office that was responsible for utility scale technologies like wind, photovoltaics, geothermal, hydropower. And we also had programs in transmission and distribution technologies and in regulatory policies for the utility industry.
I see. That's very impressive, Joe. This is your second time to run for Congress, is that correct?
It is. First time was in 2012.
I see. And how long have you been a Green Party member?
Since 2011.
I see.
And I specifically joined the Green Party to run for office.
I see. And why did you choose the Green Party instead of one of the larger parties?
I had thought about one of the larger parties at first, but then I realized that there's really, Virginia politics is a little bit strange because the incumbent and the party, if there is no incumbent, can choose the method by which the party's candidate is nominated. And we've seen how that works with Tom Davis when he tried to run for the Senate, and with Lieutenant Governor Bowling when he had considered running for governor in the last gubernatorial elections.
Right.
And those are people who were part of the party. I mean, they weren't newcomers.
And they were shut out.
And they were shut out. So I figured, well, I don't have a chance. So I looked around for a third party since I was a political novice, had not been involved in politics at all, having been a federal employee for so long, and I needed help. So I looked around at the Libertarian Party and a couple other parties and decided on the Green Party because I like the 10 key values, particularly grassroots democracy. I mean, I think that's fundamental to the reforms that we need in our current political system, to take the money out of politics and put the people back into politics. And that's really my theme, is policy based on the needs of the people and not on Wall Street. Okay.
I see. And do you have like 4 main issues that you are tackling in your campaign?
There are 4 main issues. There are many issues. 4 main issues. I don't know how to rank them, but one issue is income inequality and the economy in general. They're coupled. The problems are coupled. The economy is in trouble because, in a large part, of income inequality. The middle class, well, let me back up a little bit. Just today, the Federal Reserve Chairperson, Janet Yellen, made a statement that, that we need to deal with income inequality. And she listed at least 4 building blocks that we need to address. And one of them is early childhood education. Another is affordable higher education. Another is business ownership. And the 4th is inheritance. Well, those are all fine and good, but the real problem is that the middle class does not have the money in their pocket. The average worker does not have the money in their pocket to open a business. When you're struggling with meeting day-to-day needs, opening a business is difficult, and then inheritance is almost impossible. I mean, when you're struggling from day to day, how are you to save, especially when the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates so low that you have negative savings rates? You put money in the bank and you lose it, is essentially it. Senator Elizabeth Warren, in a recent interview with Salon, said that the current administration has essentially sold out families to Wall Street. And this is coming from one of their own. So that's really where the main focus of my campaign is. And part of that is addressing the energy issue as well, because there's a large potential there to save money in the long run, to create jobs and stimulate the economy.
Do you believe that we need a national policy on renewable energies? That
I do. I am somewhat disappointed with the EPA's carbon rule because I personally believe it will result in more natural gas and nuclear and not reaching the potential for renewable energy that's possible, especially here in Virginia, where Dominion Power is already, they've already gotten approval for a new gas pipeline, natural gas pipeline across the state to provide fuel for the new natural gas power plants that they intend to construct. And they're trying to obtain approval for a 3rd nuclear unit at their North Anna facility. Okay. So we can see where it's going.
Yes, and for the viewers, would you summarize why that is a bad thing?
Well, because we could do much better. We're still investing in the past instead of the future. There are several European countries that obtain 30%, 20% of their electricity from wind alone, just wind, not counting other renewable energy sources, just wind. I think the EPA's carbon rule is essentially setting a standard out to 2029. And we will have investments that, if they're replaced, would result in stranded investments out to 2040. And what that does is set up a roadblock. If these new investments are in natural gas and nuclear, sets up another roadblock for renewable energy. Renewable energy could be replacing coal plants today if we set our mind to it. And in fact, that's the goal that I would like to see, obtaining 40% of our electricity from renewable energy sources in the next 10 years, okay? And set up a 10-year plan to do that. And not only that, but replacing half of the cars on the road today with electric vehicles powered by renewable energy, essentially. And we can do that as well. But we don't have these aggressive goals because of the oil interests, natural gas interests.
And do you see renewable energy as an alternative to war for oil?
I do. If we can replace half of the cars on the road with electric vehicles powered by renewable energy, then we will have essentially freed ourselves from Middle East oil and all the entanglements that incurs.
For the benefit of our viewers, Germany has set a goal of 90% renewable energy by the year 2050 with an interim goal of 30% by 2020, and they are currently at 28%. Looks like they're going to achieve their goal. So could you tell us more about your efforts, your positive solutions that you're proposing, Joe, for your campaign?
On renewable energy or other areas?
Any area.
Okay. Well, with the renewable energy, what I would propose is not just depending on markets to get us to our goal, because markets are not dependable. They take a very crooked path to get to where they want to go. As anyone who's invested in the stock market knows, everything doesn't go straight up. It goes up and down and up and down all the time. But what I would propose is essentially a national renewable energy portfolio standard that would ensure that we achieve my 40% goal. Coupled with that would be regional markets for renewable energy certificates with set-asides for solar, so we would have the solar renewable energy certificates. I have solar panels on my house, and
do you have a plus house?
Pardon?
Do you have a plus house?
Plus?
Yeah. Does it create more energy
than
it uses?
No. My solar system provides about half of my electricity.
I see.
And that's a limitation of the roof space that I have to put the panels on. But my brother in New Jersey installed solar panels on his house a few years before I did. And he paid off his solar panels in, I think, 3 or 4 years. And that was basically due to the market that New Jersey has for solar and renewable energy certificates, SRECs as they're called. And that allowed him to pay off his system very, very quickly.
Wow.
And now he has free electricity for the remaining 20-year life,
cool.
20-plus year life of the system.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. Mm-hmm. And if we could do that nationwide, it would be great. Now, my other approach is I like to see public money spent for public good and not for private good. What allowed me to buy my system were the rebates that the state of Virginia offered as a result of stimulus money from the federal government.
I see.
Now, I love having solar panels on my house, and I worked hard when I was with DOE to change regulations and to develop technical standards to allow that to happen, to simplify the process. At the time, it took months or years sometimes for the utility to hook up the solar systems. But
I need to check the time.
Mm-hmm. No. Anyway, the regulatory reforms and technical standards are incorporated that I helped develop with industry through the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers are now incorporated in state net metering laws across the country, including those here in Virginia. Now, the other thing I would like to see is that I would propose installing, one of the first steps that the government should take is installing solar panels on all the schools, public schools across the country.
Perhaps on
and
all
helping that
public
happen.
buildings.
And all public buildings as well. And the savings, the electricity savings there would revert back to the public. I mean, it essentially would reduce the cost of electricity, which is substantial in our local school systems. And allow that part of the budget, or some of that part of the budget, to be devoted to education. Instead of subsidizing development of wind and solar and geothermal through companies like GE and NextEra Energy and contributing to corporate profits, I would suggest giving that job to the power marketing administrations that are essentially federal agencies, and allow them to develop renewable energy on federal lands instead of leasing those properties to private corporations. That way, the power marketing administrations could sell the power at reasonable prices to their customers, and then the revenue that they would receive would pay back the taxpayer for the investment in the renewable energy.
I see. That's very interesting. Joe, according to, of course, Independent Greens advocate very strongly for rail because it uses energy so much more efficiently, and state-of-the-art could use renewable energies. And according to Google Clock, the Earth has only about 47 years worth of fossil fuels left at the current rate of consumption. So how do you feel about rail? Do you see it as a solution?
I see rail as a solution. As I told an audience at a recent candidate meet and greet, I'm a city boy. I'm from Philadelphia. And so I grew up with public transportation and used it all the time to get wherever I needed to go. I attended college in New York City in the Bronx at Fordham. And there again, you can travel anywhere in the city in New York on public transportation. So I am in favor of rail. I would like to see not only our local subway system expanded, but passenger rail across the country expanded. I'm also, I would like to see the budget priority for public transportation in general raised to a higher priority. And I think that's the only way we'll get the job done, arguing, as some have done, that we are special here in Northern Virginia, and as an argument for obtaining funding for the Silver Line expansion, as one example, just doesn't work. When a congressman from New Jersey says, well, we need money for our system as well in New Jersey, the answer there is we just need to raise the priority for public transportation and provide more money for everyone.
Of course. Rail built anywhere in the United States benefits all of the United States, and therefore it makes sense that we should level the playing field. And roads are 100% subsidized by taxpayer funding. Rail, on the other hand, if a state or municipal government wants to fund rail, they go to the federal government. The policies say to them, if you build roads, the federal taxpayers will pay 80%. If you build rail, the federal taxpayers will pay 20%. So they default and they build roads when what we need is mass transit and rail. So I'm right with you, Joe, on that issue. We need to level the playing field and make it easier to build mass transit, to build rail, and conserve our consumable fuels.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, we have time now for a candidate spotlight. We'll spotlight the Green Party candidate, independent Green Party candidate in Virginia's 10th Congressional District.
Hi, I'm Diane Blay, and I'm running for Congress in the 10th Congressional District. And I'm running for many reasons. Basically because I want our country to be better. I think that we spend way too much money on defense. We have over 100 bases in other territory outside the United States. We need to cut back on the money we spend on that and spend it on our people in our own country. The money in campaigns is just horrific, and our legislatures are spending too much time trying to raise money instead of dealing with the issues and trying to do what's best for the country. And they're bribed whether they think they are or not. And so they don't do what is the best for our generation and our children and the world in the future. So there are many other issues too that I think we need to do better on, but basically, if you vote for Diane Blay or the Green Party, this is what the Green Party is trying to do to make a better world. So Diane Blay for Congress, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm G. Lee Aiken, and I'm running for chairwoman of the DC City Council with the DC Statehood Green Party. So let me tell you why I am running with that party and for what some of my main issues are. I have been a Green since I was in college and took ecology before anybody even knew what the word meant, because I knew it would be one of the critical issues of the age. Then I came to Washington the day after President Kennedy was elected. I had worked on his campaign in Iowa, and I was very excited to be there. But I didn't know that I would spend 53 years there and never ever be able to vote for a member of Congress or have any influence over how my tax money was spent. So 3 years ago, when I had the opportunity to be involved in politics, I chose the DC Statehood Green Party, because we need statehood, and we certainly need to preserve the environment and grow the environment and make the many changes that are necessary. You can see some of my statements on my blog, which is GLEEAIKIN, GLeeAikin.blogspot.com. I would say my best post there is one on fighting the XL pipeline and all the different problems with transporting carbon-based fuels, which is a very important issue. My other most important issue is the fact that I discovered actually about 10 years ago that my taxes were much higher than they had been a few years before that with no change in income. I finally discovered that a benefit that we had when we got home rule in 1973, which was that our deductions and exemptions on income tax had been similar to the federal deductions, had not been increased very much. The Fed goes up with inflation, but in DC it was going up when the predominantly Democratic council would raise it. So I began fighting for that. I testified before the Tax Revision Commission twice, and they recommended that we couple our rates with the federal rates, and that will put $85 million back in the pockets of low and middle income earners, but not people earning more than $150,000. Unfortunately, they're going to phase it in, so the impact on neighborhood businesses will be much smaller than it would be if they could have done the whole thing this year. And that's one of the very important things I'm going to be pushing for and enlightening the public on as I go out on the campaign trail. Thank you very much. G. Lee Aiken.
Okay, Joe, in just about a minute, is there anything else that you would like for the viewers to know about you and your campaign?
Well, I have other initiatives that I would propose if I'm elected, and one of them is tax reform. I have a tax proposal that would simplify the tax code, starting from scratch. It would only provide a standard deduction, say maybe standard deduction and a limited number of exemptions that would for a family of 4, essentially exempt the first $30,000 of income from any taxes whatsoever. It would keep the earned income credit, and it would provide for a progressive, a graduated income tax rate with, that would provide a fair distribution of the tax responsibility across the income scale.
I see. Well, Joe Galdo,
Okay,
it's been
thanks.
a pleasure having you here on the show. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thanks.
And thank you all for tuning in today. We hope to see you again for more Independent Green and Green Party New Deal solutions. Join us again on Green TV. We air 3 times a week, every Monday at 9:30 p.m., every Tuesday at 7:30 a.m., and every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. We look forward to hearing your views on Twitter. Tweet us at VA Green TV. I'm Gail Farrell Parkers. See you again next time.